Welcome to the Lion Nation Podcast. Now to your host, Chuck Grace.
Welcome, everyone, to Leander High School for the Lion Nation Podcast, last edition for the 2019 season. Coach Price, welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys
we
for having me.
have guests tonight that are going to include Coach Martinez, the athletic trainer here. Coach Grissom's sitting nearby like he may be ready to be interviewed as well.
Yes, they are.
So we'll get to talk to Coach Grissom, and then we're going to talk to Jacob Smith and
Andre Burt.
Andre Burt, okay. And so those are names I'm familiar with from calling their name on the PA, but not by face. So,
I understand.
We'll get to them a little bit later. It is Halloween. I mentioned we're at Leander High School. It's Trunk or Treat. Coach, I've been here for a long time. I've heard of Trunk or Treat, but I've never actually made one.
Sure.
And so it's a new thing to you as well. And Coach Grissom being around forever at Leander High School, he's the one that told you about it. And so what do you know about Trunk or Treat, Coach?
Well, I kind of had the basic idea of what it was, but yesterday as we were talking, trying to understand the actual gravity of what we have tonight, I think I kind of missed the mark on that. But this is pretty amazing. We have a lot of people out celebrating together, and a lot of people in the community out with their children and having a lot of fun. We have several cars parked with candy in the back, and we have a haunted hallway with our cheerleading group here in the school. And so I thought it would be great for us to be here tonight.
It's a great idea, and it just happened to fall on the night that we would typically have our podcast.
Yeah.
We want to shout out Guaco Taco, who would have hosted us tonight. We want to thank them for their when they do host us, and we'll likely get podcasts from them in the future, coming years, and other sports as well. And we'll talk to Coach Grissom a little bit about baseball, but it's not the end of football season. We have senior night coming up. Returning district champs are going to pay a visit to Bible. Vandergrift Vipers. No love loss here at Leander High School for Vandergrift, and vice versa. There is respect between the schools, but they're going to pay a visit and bring their shiny, undefeated record. Correct. And what can we expect from our defense, Coach?
Well, we're going to be facing a very well-coached team. Defensively, we have a lot of guys that have played a lot of minutes this year, so we're excited to see them do some different things against Vandergrift, and we're going to roll out a lot of different guys and a lot of different combinations to try to find the best matchups for us, and just keep playing hard. We've done that a lot this year, and keep fighting over the course of the game and see what happens.
Well, and we've talked about it a couple of podcasts, how you're not even haven't reached your 1 year anniversary here at the school, and so everything is still pretty new. One of the things I've noticed as the offense has developed, it's sometimes it's a little hiccup here and an injury or whatever, and look like we're progressing, and then there'll be a step or two back. One of the things I noticed from the Westwood game is we really opened up the short to mid-range passing game, or it looked like we were throwing the ball anywhere from 5 to 15 yards fairly regularly and with some success. Can we expect a similar development of the offense there as we continue on this last game?
Yeah, I think that's a good way for us to going forward. We have plenty of talented receivers and guys that we can put in some different spots, try to create those matchup problems for Vandergrift. And so, that's where we're looking at. We have a couple of guys that are talented when they throw the ball and some pretty good receivers. So
De La Riva.
Was that based on the coverage, or was that based on a game plan heading in, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both, but we really thought that there was a couple of guys defensively for them that we could match up well with, and we were trying to get in some different formations to get the right matchup, and when we did, we tried to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you're always looking for matchups.
Yes.
Where you can take advantage of a player a position, linebackers, defensive backs, defensive line? I mean, you guys
Absolutely.
scout that.
Scheme
And
in general,
that's what you
too.
try and do.
Yeah, and when we call the numbers of different guys, you mentioned De La Riva, they made
Shoto got a lot of
Shoto had
catches.
we had another young kid up playing with us, Webster, who
Right.
caught a couple, and Xavier had
Jacob
a couple.
Smith, one
Jacob
of our
Smith had a big
interviews,
one out in
yeah.
the flat. So, it was just an opportunity for us to get those matchups, and when we called their number, they took advantage of it.
Yeah, and I like to see that. You like to see the team still fighting it. You know, you're playing a lot of the younger kids, which I think is a good plan because you're looking more long term. Obviously, this season, you're not going to just lay down on Friday, but you're looking at developing your kids going forward, and even beyond this week. We have a bye week. But you may give the coaches a week off. I don't know. Well, you're going to be getting into off season right away.
Play the Lion Bowl next Thursday during our bye week. We're going to take all of our young guys, and we're going to put together a game for them. We're going to draft out teams and treat it like a spring game and give them one more opportunity to do something competitive before we can put the pads up, and then we'll worry about off season when we get there.
That's awesome. Is that something we can broadcast?
It's going to be during the day, but I know y'all schedule's a little hectic. But
I can take a day off if I have enough
bet you
notice. I've got a ton of leave. I've been with my company for 26 years, so you kind of build up PTO over those years, and so I just need give them a little bit of advance notice, and I could do that.
Sure. Well, we'd love to have it, and I think the kids would have a lot of fun with it.
Well, at the very least, maybe as a PA, that would be a lot of fun. So, because we'd like to on something like that, you probably want to get all the people out in the stands more than staying home. But obviously, it'd be nice for those folks at work who can't see it to be able to watch
to be able
it.
to hear, yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that. I mean, this is just one thing for those guys that we have returning. Just one more thing to, keep them interested in line football and get them excited about what's going to happen next year.
Well, and it's. Football's one of those things. There's not truly an off season. I mean, they call it off season, but you're essentially going into weightlifting and some conditioning, and then you'll roll from that. Obviously kids go to other sports, but as they come back in and out of football, they'll be coming into those different phases like 7-on-7
right.
and just weightlifting, and then the summer conditioning workouts. And talk about that process and how quickly that's going to start.
Well, as soon as we're, officially done with football, we'll start with our off-season program. And, part of off-season initially is giving the kids a little bit of time to recover. I mean, it's been a long season. They have bumps and bruises. And so we're going to give them a little bit of time to recover, and then we're going to hit it hot and heavy with our first phase. And you've already kind of listed a couple other things. We'll transition into 7-on-7 and then start getting ready for our spring phase, which is a little bit more football skills and those things, and then eventually get ready for spring ball, and then you shut it down a little bit again and get ready for your strength and conditioning camp in the summer, which is really important for your next year.
Well, and that's one of those things that you want to have 100% participation with, but it's difficult because, kids have jobs and then they go on vacations and things like that. What can the current class of juniors do to get their teammates to encourage them to come to all of the ones they can?
Sure. In our off-season program, we have some accountability measures. It's not just going to be us making sure kids are there. We're going to have captains and co-captains that lead our off-season program, and the kids in those groups are going to be responsible for reporting to those guys, because ultimately it's going to be those guys on the field with them that they have to depend on and those things. So we're going to try to encourage some peer accountability as we move through this off-season. And when we get to the summer strength conditioning camp, my rule is pretty simple. If you wake up in Leander, come to camp. But if you go on vacation and all those things, enjoy your time with your family.
Sure.
And try to find a way to get some work done there. We have a lot of kids that participate in baseball in the summer or basketball in the summer, and I believe in competition year round, so I encourage those guys to do that. But when they're not doing those things, be with us and get bigger, stronger.
Well, there's value in playing those other sports.
Sure.
That you can bring to the football field.
Absolutely.
So now you mentioned when they're on vacation. most of the time you're going to be at a hotel or a resort or something like that. There's workout facilities there. So there's really no excuse if you're there on a vacation to not get 1 or 2 workouts.
Absolutely,
right?
And we had guys that go to some. We've had a few go to some pretty remote places, but they find a way to get out and run.
You can always do burpees.
Sure.
I mean, burpees are something you can do anywhere you are. I mean, you just need a few feet so that you don't hit your head when you do them. And I'm not saying they're easy, but it is one of those exercises that's pretty close to full body.
Sure.
And you don't need much equipment. So actually need none.
Yeah.
So just the desire to do it, which is probably the toughest thing. So, okay, Coach, we're going to go on ahead and bring one of the assistants up. We'll let you go. I don't know. I guess the fire drill's all over.
It is. The fire drill is over.
So we'll start with Coach Grissom. We'll let him knock this out, and then we'll bring Coach Martinez up after Coach Grissom.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck on Friday.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Coach, how you doing?
Coach.
Mark, how are you?
Great.
Good.
Well, Coach, welcome to the podcast. It's not your first visit.
Thanks, Chuck.
Always a enjoyable interview. We get to talk about one of my favorite sports is right below football, and that's baseball. Obviously, your probably favorite sport, although we debate over whether or not you're a better play caller or. But it's all in fun.
I know. I enjoy calling plays, and I enjoy, the strategy of football is so much fun, and getting to work with our coaches and coaching staff. Adding Coach Bailey this season, we were putting something together with the freshmen today, and appreciate his knowledge and experience. But just getting out there and seeing the success on a Thursday night, and let that try to morph into as these kids get older and they grow and get better. And Coach Price has been very good to me and allowed me to be as creative as I want within the confines of the offense. And I've been lucky over the years to be able to do that. But I think, you bring up the sports and whatnot. I think that I was better at baseball. I was a better baseball player.
Right.
But I sure did love Friday nights.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
And I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. You get there's Friday night football and there's everything else, in my opinion. And that's coming from somebody that I play multiple sports. I know it's hard to believe. I even played a little basketball.
Yeah, we talked about that before. Weren't you a post even?
No, I certainly wasn't a post. I played left out.
Swing guard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that freshman football team. They've
Sure.
had some pretty good success so far.
We lost the Vista 7-0. That one still hurts like crazy. And
Always hurts to lose the Vista.
Yeah, and then we lost the Round Rock 15-14. We've been in every game. I'm really proud of our success the past few years on the lower level. We went 8-2 last year, and 7-3 the year before that, and 6-4 the year before that, I believe. And so I'm proud of that success. I know and completely understand that doesn't always equate as they get older, because you're on the same level grade wise.
Sure.
And numbers play a huge part of that. We talked about enrollment and things of that nature, but this freshman class. We had 19 kids in uniform against Round Rock, and they had 40. And I was so proud of how hard they played and what they gave us. Those boys get after it. They play hard, and just really Daniel Cedillo, and I can drop a couple of names. And
yeah, I call his name all the time.
Lee, that kid can play football. And Cameron Bergman and Max Kreitz have done a good job playing quarterback for us. Got 2 quarterbacks and
Brzezinski.
Yeah, he does a good job on the red team. He's been doing really well. So we're proud of those kids and what they bring to the program, and it's going to be fun to watch them grow and get better. And I appreciate you asking about those freshmen. They're doing a good job.
Well, and you mentioned it. You're playing against your own classmates, and so there's a certain level that is attained within that class.
Sure.
But when you move up that next year to your sophomore year, that class kind of splits up. You got a handful of them that are more physically developed and maybe game-wise more developed, and they move up to varsity. And then some of those other kids that aren't quite physically developed, maybe a year away, they stay down on JV at least part of the time. Talk about how that affects those kids when they split, and how we can keep the success flowing.
I think that, well, that's the $1 million question.
Exactly.
That's the $1 million question. I think that I know that when we had some success here, you only had 2 or 3 sophomores on the varsity,
right?
And that contributed because of numbers and because of different reasons and things. We sometimes have to pull more sophomores up, like we have Andre here tonight,
right,
and some of the other kids. We just got to keep them out, and keep them interested and keep them loving football. And if we can do that, then I think that we'll kind of turn the corner on the numbers game. And I know Coach Price is very aware of that, and I think that we're on the right track with that for sure.
Well, and the numbers, really is the issue. Because those sophomores that have to come up and contribute on the varsity, they miss a real value of competing at the JV level as a sophomore, where they would likely get more playing time in a position they're more accustomed to than maybe they get put in a spot they're not used to on the varsity just out of need and because they're an athlete.
Absolutely.
So,
and that you run into that same thing with baseball. It's could you imagine putting a 6th grader against an 8th grader?
Yeah,
you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. It's just not. And so why would we think a sophomore on a consistent level is going to be able to play on that? Of course, as they get older and they mature, there's always going to be those 1 or 2 or 3 kids that are able to handle it.
Well, I always I've seen it year in, year out. So from my own experience to what I've seen here, that year between the junior and senior year is a really big year for a lot of kids.
Absolutely.
And they develop, from a kid that might not have even contributed much on JV or even B team as a freshman or JV to a starter that contributes and might even get district honors.
I don't know.
In just 1 year.
I was talking to Coach Price about this probably about 2 weeks ago. I can remember when I was the head JV blue coach.
Right.
Several years ago. It's been a few years now. And I don't know how many times that we had a junior on the JV. I'm not kidding you now.
Right.
A junior on the JV that made first team all district the next year as a senior.
It's because they get to play much as that junior, even though they haven't quite developed to what they're going to be the next year. It makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference.
In-game experience.
And what an opportunity for them to be able to, I think one thing that we have to continue to impress upon kids and parents, quite frankly, is it's better to play on a Thursday night than sit on a Friday night.
Well, and you're exactly right. And parents are probably one of the worst for that.
That's Chuck Tracy who said that. Chuck Tracy who said
that. Yeah, that's right. You can probably follow me on Twitter. You can directly message me. But it's true. They want to be able to go and say, my kid this, my kid that, sophomore all district or whatever.
Absolutely.
When the focus should be on the child's development.
Absolutely. So. And that's ultimately what we're shooting for. I wanted to touch on something that you visited with Coach about real quick, the importance of multiple sport athletes. And we've talked about this every time I think I've done a podcast. And I've come on. The importance of allowing these kids to play multiple sports and not just be lip service, and the importance that some kids, their first sport may be basketball and their second sport may be baseball, or their first sport may be baseball and their second sport be football. That's how the world has changed and evolved, and we've got to allow these kids, and we do. But we need to understand that we need these kids to play as many sports as they want to play, and we've got to cultivate that within our society. And single sport athletics is only going to hamstring kids into putting all their eggs in one basket. And who knows, they might have wanted to be the starting point guard, but they might have been a better outside linebacker.
Right. Well, and you mentioned hamstring. Repetitive injury is something that occurs when you focus on one sport. And you see it time and again with youth pitchers. They end up throwing their elbow out from pitching too much. Their parent or the coach of their travel team may not be as experienced a coach as he thinks he is, and overpitch a kid and cause damage to elbows and all kinds of things like that. And that can happen in football as well.
Absolutely. And the beauty of high school is this is the only time they get to do it.
Right.
And they should experience it, as much as possible, for sure.
Well, Coach, I'm going to let you slide here.
Hold on, before we jump off, let's
you
talk
got more?
craft market. Craft market.
I forgot about the craft market.
Craft market.
Yes, it is November. Where's Melissa? What's the date on it?
She's right over there on the
Melissa.
Miss Sickles, what's the date for the craft market? November 23rd, Saturday. It starts at 9 a.m. We open the doors.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. There'll be over 200 vendors here at Leander High. Bring your wallet. We like to bring the money that folds and not jingles. But
we'll take any of it. Though.
Yeah, we'll take any of it. It's our big fundraiser. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Simpson and the administration that allows us to do that. Before I go, Chuck, I would be remiss if I did not mention. Please come to the craft market. Yes, and that's never been an issue because it's turned into such a great thing. I would be remiss if I would not tell, if there's anybody out there actually listening to me right now, what a great job Coach Price has done with these kids.
I agree.
And I think we all know the challenges that our kids have and our community has in the current state that we're in. But I could not tell you that there's not a better human being in this position right now to take this program further.
And I agree with you on that. And you've spent obviously a lot more time with Coach Price than I have, but in the minimal interaction and then in communicating with people who are interacting with him on a regular basis, I hear nothing but what you just said. So
I will guarantee you. I will guarantee you that this program will have the success that it deserves because of Coach.
I agree. And we need to get the community involved, and, they can come out here for trunk or treat. We need them to come out on Friday nights, and we need to get those young men into the program.
Absolutely. So, as Coach Connell, my assistant in baseball, would say, are you frustrated or are you fascinated?
There you go.
And so we need more fascination.
That's right. I like that a lot too. So we're going to talk to Coach Martinez. He did something superhero-esque
no doubt,
recently.
For sure. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Good luck on Friday.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Coach Martinez, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Coach, you recently, we'll get into it in a minute. You recently started employment with LISD, correct?
I did, yes.
So how long have you been here?
This is starting my first year, so just a few months in, starting in July.
Just a few months, right? And not to jump right into the topic of the day recently, but there was an incident at a sub-varsity game that you had to quickly react to assist in really helping an elderly community member in a time of need. Talk about that a little bit. I know you're probably limited on what you can say, but
it was our SRO officer, Officer Ward, called me and asked me if to come up to the stands, take a look at the elderly person. Went up there, just kind of had to ask him, like, what do I need to bring up there with me? Do I need to bring extra supplies and all that? And he just told me there was a wound. So I grabbed some extra gloves, gauze, and stuff that I thought I might need, ran up there. And as I got there and got to take a look at it, it was a little bit worse than what I was expecting. Just with athletic trainers, we have to think quick on our feet. We have to make fast decisions. And it was just one of those that I asked one of my students who was down on the field to make me a small bag of ice, put it on there just to try and slow the bleeding down. Having to work out well. The patient had, some other medical issues that we had to address at the same time. Make sure he wanted to, I guess, have his wife drive him to the hospital, which was fine.
Well, it costs money.
Yeah, and thankfully he wasn't, so bad that he couldn't get down to the stands and all that kind of stuff. So as we're getting him to the front gate, that's when EMS showed up and he declined it. The wife loaded him up, took him, everything turned out well for him. So. I was just glad to be able to help.
Have you spoken to him?
I actually on the Leander Place Facebook page actually responded to his wife, and she kind of put the update on there as to what happened with him, and I just responded back to her and was glad everything turned out well for him, and it wasn't as bad as it could have turned out to be, had we not gotten everything slowed down, stopped the bleeding, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I take baby aspirin for to avoid the heart attack. My doctor told me to take it, and I can get a nick, and that thing will bleed and bleed and bleed. So I can imagine if he was on some kind of medication that thinned his blood, that could be really dangerous.
Yeah, and it's tough having to jump in the stands like that and help people out because you don't know all their entire medical history, and hopefully they're forthcoming with it, so it's not something that you're trying to figure out on the fly on what is really causing this.
Right.
But like I said, thankfully he and his wife were very open about it. Communicated with me, and I believe it was his son-in-law was also an EMT who showed up after I'd gotten there and kind of helped, facilitate things as well and get everything going. And Officer Ward obviously got EMS activated for us, and thankfully we didn't need him, but it's glad it was kind of a team effort to get everything done and taken care of.
So you got an award for that act
Yes.
by the Leander Police Department, correct? And that was a coin? Is that what it was?
Yes, it turned out to be a coin. Coach Price wonderfully distracted me thinking, we needed to talk to the officials that night.
So you were unaware.
I was completely, the look on my face, I don't know if anybody
I was too
caught the
high
video.
up there. I was the one announcing it.
Well, and I know, there was another young lady, I don't know who she was videoing on her phone, but if you could, I guess, see my face as I'm walking up on the 50, and Mr. Simpson, Coach Price, and, the two, Officer Ward and the other assistant chief were walking up towards me. I'm just kind of like, what are we doing? I leaned over to Coach Price. I'm like, are we giving an award or something to somebody? And he just tells me, stop talking, just listen. And so, I kind of started listening to what you're, announcing and everything like that. And I'm just kind of like, okay. I was like, okay, this is about me. And, it's just, I don't do this job for the recognition.
Right, obviously.
It's one where, I'm glad to do it. I love what I do. And, it's one where I'd much rather stay in the shadows, of who is that guy? Who's that person in the red running around or whatever color polo I'm wearing that night? That's kind of where I like to stay.
But it's nice to be recognized too.
Yeah,
what you do.
Yeah, and it was, it was, like I said, it was surprising. I was honored. I was blessed by it. Just me doing my job, just doing what I do, and helping to take care of people and the community and all that kind of stuff, and which I'm very happy to do.
Well, and most trainers are kind of behind the scenes. They spend most of their time wrapping ankles, making guys do their rehabilitation, things like that. Have you gotten into a comfortable groove with these guys to where they're making their treatment appointments, or do you have some guys you got to stay on about it?
They're high school kids.
Right.
We have our good ones, we have our bad ones, and it's times where, you've kind of got to get the parents involved sometimes on, like, why can't this kid get here on time? Or, is there something going on that they only ride the bus? Mom, dad go to work too early, you can't get them here on time. So we do our best to work with the kids. We try and keep that open line of communication, but I guess for me, doing this for so long, that I want to put the emphasis on the kid. I want to make them responsible for their own treatment, for their rehab, to say, you've got to communicate with mom and dad, tell them you need to ride up here, if you don't drive, type stuff. And it's just something where I try and push that on the kid to kind of hopefully reinforce what they're getting at home, but I know every home situation.
Well, and responsibility is something that you as coaches and trainers and teachers need to be imparting on those students, as well as us parents. We're not always successful, though. It's nice to have some backup.
Yeah, so. And like I said, I don't know everybody's home situation, and I'm kind of the same with every kid. Once I find out, they have this going on or that going on, I may soften up in certain spots for them, but if you come in there and watch me do what I do, I'm the same with every kid. I try and act the same way. I try and treat everyone the same way, just where they know I'm hard on them, but they know at the same time I do care about you and I want the best for you. I'm pulling you right now because I have to.
They need that. I mean, most of them do.
Yeah.
Now, we could keep talking about that, but one of the things that we do when we interview a coach for the first time is we kind of explore your background, your history.
Okay.
So talk about your high school experience and transition that into college. Were you an athlete? Were you a trainer in high school? How did that work?
I was actually an athlete. I played football and baseball right down the road, and we actually played them this year. Round Rock. I actually played at Round Rock High School.
Round Rock High School,
yeah. Graduated from there, and then I went to what's now Texas State. I went when it was still Southwest Texas University.
Kind of dating yourself.
Yeah, I am a little bit. From there, I graduated my bachelor's in kinesiology, and then I went on to get my master's in athletic training at Texas Tech Health Science Center up in Lubbock. And from there, I've been in the DFW area for the last 13 years.
So what made you decide that when you were in at Texas State? Or
I'd always had a desire to help people, but I wanted to work with athletes, but I wanted to work with this age group. And a buddy of mine that I was an undergrad with was in the program at the time, and kind of tagged along with him to a few of his games that he was covering and all that, and I just fell in love with it. And it was just one where I was like, okay, I'm too far along in my bachelor's to really, start it. So I was like, I might as well just go get my master's in it and, pursue it that route. So I did that instead.
So how many years have you been a trainer?
I started my 14th year.
Your 14th year. And so you were at another school?
I've been at 3 different high schools prior to here.
Are they all local?
They're all up in the DFW area.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of.
Which ones?
Started out my career in Alvarado, Texas. Moved from there up to Brewer High School in White Settlement, just on the west side of Fort Worth. Yeah. And then my last stop was at Lake Dallas, just in between Denton and Louisville. And I was there for the last 5 years.
What made you want to come to Austin?
Just getting back closer to family. My parents are still in Round Rock. I got my brother and his wife and my niece and nephew over in South Austin. So just an opportunity to get home, be able to see the family a little bit more, see my niece and nephew grow up in person rather than in pictures or videos that my brother sends me. So
you see his stuff online.
Yeah, so it's for me, it's coming home, being able to it's grown up tremendously. I don't recognize 3/4 of everything that's going on around here. I've been gone for so long that when I visited, it was just going to my parents' house. And
it's a different town.
Yeah, it's grown up. I remember playing here in Bible Stadium when the stands were still wood.
And it was twisted still, a different angle.
Yeah, it was still grass at the time and everything like that. And I've got memories of playing here. Yeah,
I played here on grass.
So it was like, and even going back to Round Rock Stadium, just the amount of renovations that have been done there, I don't recognize it. I had a chance to go in the field house and see that.
That campus is huge now.
Yeah, it's grown tremendously, and I don't recognize it. I miss my 20-year
like community college.
Yeah, I miss my 20-year high school reunion just because because they do it during football season, so I can't really take off to.
We always do ours in the summer.
I've thrown it out, but they always want to do it during the football season. So I'm like, well,
I never understand why people will plan their wedding on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday during football season. It just doesn't make any sense. You want a bunch of people looking at their phone, then go ahead and schedule that.
Unless you got that automatic someone that's constantly, hey, here's the score, guys.
Exactly. Well, back then I used to record them and don't tell me, and then somebody would always ruin it for you. Well, Coach, good luck to you. We're great to have you up here, and I assume you're going to be doing training for other sports as well.
Every Miss Henderson and I will do cover every sport that we have here, and it'll be a mix of who's covering what, but we're we like it that way to where the kids are comfortable coming to both of us, not just the guys coming to me and the girls going to her.
We got to meet her at the last podcast.
So.
Well, it'll be good. We'll see you around. Mark and I, we do try to do the basketball and some baseball as well. So, we'll probably be seeing you around.
Yeah,
it was good talking to you.
Anytime.
Nice to meet you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
And so we're going to have 2 players. Who's first? Jacob Smith. First. Jacob Smith. How's it going, buddy? Thank you, Vicky's driving you nuts. I tell you, I'm not very good at that. That's the worst thing, too. Jacob, it's good to meet you. Welcome to the podcast. You're aware it's the last one, but you've seen your playing time start to increase as the season wears on.
Yes, sir.
We did the game at Kelly Reeves, and I remember calling a particular play, and I'm like, that looks like a 90 number in the backfield. Mm-hmm. And it was, and you made a reception and picked up a first down, keep the drive alive.
Yes, sir.
You got hit pretty hard there on the sideline too. It looked like.
Yeah, it was expected.
Right. So you were waiting on it. So talk about your experience. At fullback, being on the varsity here. How long have you been on the varsity?
It's being fullback is new. I mean, I transferred here from Eastview.
Okay.
this year. So this is my first year on Leander varsity. I was just in spring ball varsity at Eastview, but I
Okay.
played the same position.
Okay. So you're already accustomed to the plays. You had to come get the terminology straight. Is it the same or?
It's not really the same. I had to learn it all over again. It was a hassle.
That's one of those things, though. You move from a team, it's gotten to the point where teams scout other teams, and if they pick up your terminology, they can use that against you during a game.
Yes, sir.
And so, you kind of keep that from other teams, and you kind of change it as well competitively. So you got to get used to that if you're going to keep playing football.
Of course.
Basically. When I played, it was real easy. You had 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 on the right side. You had 1, 3, 5, and you'd say the 3 back to the 2 hole.
That's what I had. At
Right.
Eastview.
Oh, is that what they run at Eastview?
My freshman year, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Well, and they may have changed. I think they got a new coach this last year.
Yes,
So.
Jared Peacock.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, now they're an SHN team, so I hear about them a little bit from time to time. They get broadcast by the same company. So you're a sophomore?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are your plans going forward then?
I would like to attend a 4-year, maybe play ball, but it's all up to.
A lot of guys walk on and eventually get a scholarship. Now the key to that is, and you got to keep this in mind, is when you're working out, especially at that level, you got to consume 5,000-6,000 calories a day. And as a college student, if you're paying for all your college, that can be difficult to attain.
Yes, sir.
On a daily basis. So, keep that in mind. If your parents or whatever 4-year school you attend, if you're on campus and you get the food plan, then you're set.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got a son at North Texas, so we paid for the food plan. So, you got anything you want to ask, Jake?
No, I think you did a great job this past game, and excited. I mean, this is your senior year, so what are you looking forward to over the summer after football? What's your plan before
For the
you
rest
graduate?
of this year, yeah.
I'm just gonna stay in the weight room, stay in shape, and whatever happens from there happens.
You compete in any other sports?
I'm thinking about wrestling this year.
I would highly recommend wrestling, and the only reason I say that is I used to kind of laugh at people when they would tell me about wrestling, but I saw what it did to my sons and their abilities on the football field, as well as their just individual self-confidence. So you learn balance and things that you find useful if you find yourself on a college football field. Now, when you say a 4-year school that you're considering going to, would you consider going to a smaller 4-year school? Like a Division III school. The reason I ask is as I cover Southwestern in Georgetown on Saturdays, and of course it's an expensive school, but they've got a pretty good football program that they've started there. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And they compete there at Birkelbach for their home games.
I've been looking into Mary Hardin, Baylor.
Yeah, that's one of the teams that Southwestern plays and gets beat by.
Yes, sir.
Of course, just about everybody gets beat by.
They're a pretty good team.
They actually barely won against Hardin Simmons on Saturday. I think it was 14-12 or 15-14, 16-15. And so in terms of Mary Hardin Baylor, they're down a little bit. Still above most other Division III teams. They're the number 1 team in the country.
They're
so.
still a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, if you got an opportunity to play for Coach Fredenberg, I would recommend it. He's a good coach. So,
Yes, sir.
I would also recommend Coach Austin at Southwestern if you get that
Okay.
opportunity. He's a good guy too. But we're gonna let you go, Jacob. We're gonna let you go get some candy. It was nice to meet you. Good luck on Friday. Make sure you get a touchdown against those clowns.
Yeah, there you go.
Because of all the ones that we need to score on, it's these guys. So. All right, so we have the last one is Andrew Burt. Is that right? Andre. I always want to call you Andrew for some reason. I've probably been doing that over the PA all year long.
Yeah, I
Have you
hear it
noticed?
all the time.
If I call you Andrew and it's Andre,
Yes,
maybe
sir.
it's wrong on the roster.
Maybe on the roster sheet.
It is okay. Then I'm sorry.
It's all right. I don't.
You know what? We can blame Coach Thomason because he should have told me on a sub-varsity night when he's running the clock. Hey, you're getting that guy's name wrong.
I remember the first time I made a tackle.
Since
and
he's not here.
I heard it and I was like,
Who's Andrew?
I was like, I mean, I guess.
Well, I'll get it right this Friday. So you're a junior?
Oh, I'm a sophomore.
You're a sophomore, okay.
Sir.
So I'll have it right over the next couple of years, especially with as many tackles as you make on Friday nights. And you're playing a defensive back or is it
I'm
a
playing
linebacker position?
safety and a rover.
And so the rover is kind of a modified linebacker.
It's like
safety.
a hybrid.
Yeah. Do you like that a lot?
I mean, it's different. It's
You
a
make
challenge.
a lot of tackles from
You
that
do, you do.
position. So
What'd you play before?
Last year on freshman, I played running back and safety.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're used to covering guys. That's the easy part. But coming up, well, safeties make a lot of tackles in
Yes,
our
sir.
defense. So
Covering has been hard this year because, the transition is just different,
well, there's a lot more speed at the varsity
Most
level.
definitely. Most definitely.
Well, and some of the teams that we play, they've got 3 or 4 guys that are sub 4 or 5 guys.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
if you don't get your hips turned and head turned and get upfield, you're going to
gotta
get
be
left
quick.
behind, right? And if their quarterback has any kind of arm, then that's a touchdown.
Yeah, Westwood's quarterback had an arm.
Yeah,
He had a
I actually know that kid personally. He's a good athlete, but we should have been able to contain him a little better than we
should've,
did.
yeah.
But I'm sure you probably watched film and saw that. But that's part of the maturation and development process. Is this the first year you've been watching film after game?
I always watched a little bit of it, but first year we really dissected it and
Kind
got
of
into
studied it
Yeah.
and noticed, oh wow, that I am doing that one thing that affects my technique. And so, have you been able to correct things?
It's been a learning process. Yeah, you could say that.
So
It's easy to. People will say you're doing this or you're doing that, and you're thinking in your head, no, I'm not. I'm not doing it. But then when you watch it on film and you
You
say,
actually see it.
okay, now I see, now I know
film
what they're
don't
talking about, and I see it myself, so I need to listen and understand what's going on. So there's always things you can work on.
Yeah, it helps me analyze myself and know what I need to do better.
now, this coming summer, you plan on making all the off-season workouts?
Most definitely.
Are you going to do any of the camps that are offered in the area? Like I mentioned Southwestern when I was talking to Jacob, they have a summer camp where they bring about 8 or 10 colleges in, and they just kind of look at guys and,
I'll probably do as much as I can this summer, get myself out there.
That one's I recommend because it's close by. I mean, you just need to drive up to Georgetown and then you can make it. Texas State has one as well, so those are fairly close. And a lot of big schools go to them. You get when I say big, relatively big, Angelo State, Sam
Those schools,
Houston,
yeah.
and Stephen F. Austin, and those are schools that have really good programs that guys end up going on into the NFL from. So, well, Mary Hardin Baylor does too, and they're Division III. So, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your schoolwork. As a sophomore, you're just kind of getting into the high school groove. What are your favorite classes?
I don't know. I like football. I'm in a lot of AP, pre-AP classes, so I wouldn't say they're my favorite because they're
hard, right?
Yeah.
Are you thinking about IB?
That's probably too much for me.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but I'm probably gonna stick to the AP classes. I like them. They're a challenge.
Well, yeah, and there's a couple of IB guys on this team,
Oh, yeah.
right? So, if you think about it, you might want to talk to them, see what their experience
I
is.
think I could do it, but it's just a matter if I really want to do it.
Well, and that's pretty much the same with just about anything. Sure, there's a physical limitation that might stop you or financial problems on certain things, but for the most part, if you dedicate yourself, you can do it. I mean, how many people probably told Jose Altuve, you're too small to play baseball in the major
Probably a
leagues?
bunch. Yeah.
Probably everybody. And until now, they don't say that anymore.
No.
But we're going to let you go. So we're going to wrap this up.
Nice to
And
meet you.
good luck on Friday.
Good luck Friday.
And going forward as well. So we want to shout out all of our sponsors. Listen to me repeat them on Friday. It's 9 Round, Bushes. Who else do we have? I don't have the list here, so we're going to let it go. Actually, you two guys don't leave because we got a prize for you for being guests. And we want to wrap it up. Friday night, senior night. Make sure you're here early. There's going to be a ton of seniors that I have to call out. And I apologize if I get any last names wrong. It's just what it is. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vicky.